Greetings, adventurers. This is DM Kurt, and I want to talk to you about what would make for a bad role-playing game. Okay, we may pick on one particular game in particular. Fatal, produced around the year 2000, 2001. There is a 977-page PDF floating around the internet. Good luck finding a printed copy of the book. It's no longer in production anywhere, and I don't think most places would want to carry it because of all of the multiple rules for how to make a bad game. The first thing it starts off with is number one, intentionally offensive materials within. Okay, I've seen a few modern games on TTRPG that deal with topics like abortion. Okay, there was one guy who wrote a game where a civil war in the United States came to be over abortion, and that is a key primary driver of his game. The pro-anti of that topic. Okay, Fatal, which I do not condone, I disavow. Got a copy of it. Yeah, it is awful. Non-consensual activity is mentioned repeatedly. It's just bad. So intentionally offensive materials, racist or political things can really be something you really don't want to bring to most gaming tables. Okay. Contradictory or nonsensical rules for number two. If you have one rule for falling damage in Chapter 2 and a different rule for falling damage in Chapter 7, contradictory rules. Nonsensical rules. I ran into one awful game, which I disavow, in which if you have a combat, your player characters gain XP. Okay. Gain enough XP, you gain levels. Okay. If you use a firearm, remember this is a non-magical game, so there's no magical things. It's just a normal, mundane firearm. In a combat, then that firearm gains experience points and can level up, gaining accuracy and damage bonuses. There's no reasoning for that. That is a nonsensical rule. Okay. Number three, missing rules. Some people appreciate a rules-light RPG where, you can just get into the action, you can get into the role play really quickly. But then there's times where the rules are so vague, the game master or whatever they want to call themselves, referee, etc., has to make up things whole cloth. Like, let's just say it, 5th edition D&D's Spelljammer books. It's about these ships, they're in space, that can combat each other. Adventures in space, aboard ships, or on weird planets and planetoids and meteorites. And there are no real ship-to-ship combat rules, even though the ships will have weapons mounted on them. There was a little paragraph that basically said, you might as well just run up against the other guy and then do a boarding action. You could have put some rules for ship-to-ship combat. The 2nd edition Spelljammer books had rules for that. It was almost its own mini-game. It may have had too many, but it at least had some rules for that. How do you adjudicate our ships being chased by this other ship? Well, you just do. Great. Overly complicated character generation for number five. Number five, we're almost halfway through. Overly complicated character generation is bad, in my opinion, because in any game where characters can be defeated and die, there will be a need to roll up new characters. And this is a complicated, tedious, or lengthy process. Then you're going to have a player who's just sitting there out of the action, rolling dice, writing things down, rolling dice, while everybody else is having a good time. Okay, and they're having that good time without that player. So, the other half of this is the new player wanting to make up a new character, and they're faced with something daunting, and they don't want to play the game with you because the barrier to entry is created. I'll pick on 5th edition D&D a little bit on this because it could be streamlined. There are other editions of D&D which were better for this. You have to make up your class. You have to pick your race. You have to, or species. You have to roll attributes, pick your archetype, depending on whether you're a cleric or whatever. Some of them start at level 1, adding an archetype. Some of them start at level 3 with their archetype. Pick a background, and your background has mechanical benefits. So pick wisely, etc., etc. Choose which skills from a skill list, etc. But that's kind of nothing compared to one of the most awful games, Fatal, wherein you have to roll approximately 400 dice to make up a character. Okay, 200 of those dice are in rolling your attributes. So, sounds crazy. There's 5 attributes, each of which has 4 sub-attributes. You roll each of the sub-attributes with 10 D100, divide that by 5, subtract 1, and round off. Okay, and then when you get all 4 sub-attributes, average that together, and the average is the main attribute. So, there's 200 dice, give or take. The other 200 dice are for dumb things like head circumference, so you know what hat size you have, the length of your foot, the width of your knuckles, and other less savory tables. Yeah, I mean, you could spend hours of just character generation in a game where your character dies like that, potentially. If somebody rolls a critical hit, and some of the critical hits are pretty gory. Bad layout, where topics are out of order, where you have to flip through the book to even make up a character. You have to hunt and search for topics to run the game. Okay, bad layout. Personally, I like topics to start out at the top of the page, left-hand corner, boom, and if you can fit it all, great. If there's a little empty space, throw in a small piece of art, good to go. All right, and then the next page, next topic, top left, boom, go from there. So let's say it's on PDF. So then you can just print those particular pages, and you have it, and it's nice, easy. Layout also in, everything's in a neat order. Bad indexes. Okay. 5th edition's Player's Handbook of 2014. This was one of the worst indexes I ever saw. So for firstly, the font size, very tiny, which is obnoxious. And secondly, a lot of the spots in the index were things like, I want to look up poisoned. Okay, my character is suffering the poisoned condition. What does that mean? I look up poisoned. See conditions. Flip over. Conditions. Oh, that's on page such and such. Why didn't you just tell me poisoned, comma, condition, page number? Okay, you just forced me to look it up the way you wanted me to look it up, when you could have just said conditions, page this, poisoned, also page that. And you know, if it's repetitive to put 179 or whatever more than once, too bad. You know, do a good index that is player friendly. Bad art. bad art is somewhat subjective. Okay, art that is not safe for work, you should consider who your audience is. Do you want this a kind of a game for everyone, or is this just for an adult table? Okay, that's for your not safe for work. Your art should also be representative of the theme you want to have. I'm seeing some art from the 2024 Player's Handbook for whatever edition D&D, and there's just lots of pinks and purples and pastels, and everybody's kind of happy, sunny, playful, whimsical. That's a vibe. Okay, you can do that. And then I'm seeing things like Shadow Dark, where it's black and white, and there's, dude with a sword, and, more gritty, scary, dun, 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 kind of thing to it. Okay, that's kind of more of the vibe I'm looking for. You have some of your older edition D&D art, some of your easily paintings, you're kicking in a door, or, you're facing a horrible monster, Okay, I get it, The hero overcomes the scary thing, or is attempting to, There's threat, there's danger, there's violence, Overcome the bad thing, be the hero. Cool. AI art is kind of a new topic. Some people feel there's nothing wrong with computer-generated art. They feel it's just a different tool. You don't have to make your art using paint. You can use pens and pencils. That's just a different tool. You can use photography to make art. That's just a different tool. You can use AI. It's just a different tool. Other people feel that AI art is essentially stolen art. Opinions vary, okay? If you're going to use AI art, consider that there's a handful of people that feel one way and a handful that feel the other. This may be an issue to sales. Contradictory, missing, or too much lore. If contradictory lore would be saying that, the world suffered a cataclysm in such and such date, and, these heroes died, and then later date you have these heroes going out doing stuff. Or it could be not having any sense of where the game world is set. You could have too much lore where you are spending page after page of, here's these two particular adventurers, and this is all that the things that they did, and we didn't need to know that. Okay? That's fine if you're writing a novel. We're making a game book. I think the last one is pretty obvious. Plagiarism from other works. If I were to name my new game that I'm writing, Lord of the Rings Adventures in Middle-earth, the Tolkien estate is going to sue my pants off because it's plagiarism. Okay? There it is. These are some of my rules for what would make for a bad role-playing game. Game Kurt, out.